Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. The Revivalists rocked the anthem in Washington, D.C. this Wednesday night. I spoke to guitarist Zach Feinberg when the band played the anthem in 2020, hearing how the band turned Hurricane Katrina into an inspiring band name for hit records like Wish I Knew You.
Thanks so much for taking the time to call in.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
A lot of our fans love the band, but they might not even know. When they hear the name the Revivalists, they might not even make the connect to New Orleans. The whole Hurricane Katrina evacuation time period. Recount the story. Is it true you met your band member on a bike ride when you were down there during that whole thing?
Yeah, that is true. And there is a piece of the band name I think is inspired by that. Post-Katrina time period. The band is from New Orleans. We all live there. Actually, we're all kind of raised in different parts of the country, but around college age, we all met in New Orleans, and I was riding my bike one sunny afternoon, and I heard this really good singer singing and playing guitar, just belting it out for nobody, really, on the front porch, and I stopped to listen, and that's how I met our lead singer, David Shaw. Yeah, true story. That was back in 2007. And as far as the name of the Revivalists goes, yeah, it's like kind of city was getting back on its feet around that time, and we wanted to come up with a name that would be evocative of the time and place that we're coming from, but also, paying, giving a nod to the way that we like to play live, and enjoying older styles of music and whatnot.
Awesome. Now, take me back even before that. When you yourself were growing up, how did you get bit by the music bug? What sort of? I always like to know, what sort of albums were around the household that you grew up on, and and got you into this whole biz to begin with.
I guess I was always a musical kid. I remember sliding around the house playing Michael Jackson, and I would I would buy music at a pretty early age, or asked to buy music. I remember buying Nirvana in utero when I was in first grade, just being moved by that, being moved by Paul Simon. But what really got me into playing music was my father, who plays guitar. So he got me started on that, and kind enough to get me lessons throughout my childhood. So that got me really going.
Do you know what, take me back, you're sitting there with your dad, I don't know, on the end of the bed or the couch, and do you remember the early, early, do you remember any of the early riffs that he's sitting there teaching you? What were some of the first ones?
Yeah. Bad to the Bone, or just that classic blues riff. That's a good one. I was 9 years old. And I also remember the period, when you're learning an instrument, how it's really frustrating at first and you kind of give up. So I remember giving up for a while, but the guitars were always around, and then I would just kind of play around with it on my own, not really practicing. And it was almost that approach that I still do, where it's whenever it feels like work and practice is when I'm turned off from it, and it's just play. It's just the notion of playing is where it really where it works for me, I think.
Awesome. You told us the story about riding the bike and passing David, but what about him? His sound of his voice, or was it the lyrics he was saying? What about him specifically caught your ear? You think what made him mesh with you?
It was the sound of his voice, and also it struck me as original music. This wasn't a song that I'd heard before, and it was powerful. I just was stopping to enjoy it. I didn't think this would, in that moment, that this was going to be a band that I end up, having for 15 plus years or whatever. But it was just a very. He was. I saw that he had something there for sure, and I was compelled to stop because of that.
All right, so you kind of told us about how you got the band together. Take me back to that first studio album, Vital Signs, in 2010. When you look back at it now, what do you either what stands out, either that you're most proud of, or that kind of when you look back on it, it kind of shows you're still figuring things out a little bit. Talk about sort of how that kind of encapsulates you guys in your earliest form.
Yeah, there are elements of both those things for sure. There's moments that I'm really proud of and writing that I'm proud of. there's performance that I'm proud of, and then there's performance that I wish, I can go back and do better. So I mean, like the opening track, Not Turn Away, I really like how that came out with performance and the mix. It's a really strong song written by our drummer, DC area native Andrew Campanelli. That's a highlight. Catching Fireflies is a highlight as far as studio performance. I like some of the other tunes that are on there. Strawman is one that I'm personally proud of. Do you think that we could have done a better job studio performance-wise? Just like, didn't really have it figured out, wasn't super comfortable at that point in the studio. But, I think these are things that just continue to happen, throughout where nothing's ever perfect, and at a certain point you just let it go and say, okay, this is what it is. Hopefully people like it.
And also, you got to know, I'm sure that it's small stuff that we don't even notice it as fans, but it's stuff that you find it and you're like, I can always do better. But all right, well, then take me into that now. All right, so then you evolve into City of Sound, the second album, 2014. I'm going to look back on that even fonder. Like, do you think you guys, any of the things that you thought you needed to tighten up? Talk about how you think that was maybe,
So the recording of City of Sound was actually December 2010, and we independently released it, I think, March 2012. And then we signed a record deal, and they re-released it 2014. So it's also, like, in my mind, it's a pretty similar time period to recording it as Vital Signs. It was only like a year or so after that we were in the studio. But it was our first effort with Ben Ellman as producer, who's really excellent producer. He plays saxophone in the band Galactic, and he's done great work on their albums and on Trombone Shorty. I did 2 records with him, and he's got a very unique production style. And so with that being our first album with him, we really wanted him to sort of express his sort of producer voice on that record. So that's kind of the take-home point, I would say, for City of Sound, is that we really put ourselves into his hands, and we're very happy with the result.
Awesome. And then, of course, the third album, Men Amongst Mountains, is when you guys really, really blew up, and, all of us,
right.
you became a household name for all of us.
Right,
of course, Wish I Knew You was just massively, massively successful. And it's funny, my wife and I always talk about wishing we met younger, and, those lyrics always kind of, are special, in that light. But is that sort of what you're going through with that, or like anything? I'm sure most songs have the meaning to you guys. But
David wrote that song, and I do think that was what the sentiment is, with his girlfriend at the time, like, which still his partner, and he was just kind of, wistfully looking back. But at the same time, there's this element of gratitude in it, like, just saying that I wish, we had more time that a lot of people connected. So that said, a lot of people interpret it in other ways which are equally as valid, because music being subjective as it is, it's often a family member. I wish I, had this time with you earlier, or I wish I knew you, I wish you were survived this, or we've gotten a lot of fan response on different ways that song has moved people, and that's all wonderful to us, that it can be moving to people and helpful to people and mean something for them.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. It's like that sort of that wistful lament, but at the same time it's upbeat and positive, you know what I mean? Like, it's still there's that gratitude there that at least you're there now. All right, and then bringing us all the way up sort of to the present, with Take Good Care, your fourth album. All My Friends was also a pretty big hit. I think it even topped the alternative charts. Any tidbits you can share with me on how that one came together, or memories of in studio recording that one?
It's fairly straightforward. Dave co-wrote that one with this producer, songwriter Dave Bassett, and had it fairly fleshed out, and we worked with them in the studio and just kind of added on top of it and tracked it. But yeah, beyond that, it's just they wrote the tune and then we cut it, over their demo.
Awesome. Now, you guys have played pretty much, the biggest music festivals that there are. You've done through Austin City Limits, New Orleans Jazz Fest. That was probably really cool, being from, forming from there. Do you have a personal favorite, like opening for the Stones? I mean, come on, like, which one stands out to you the most?
I mean, that's certainly a standout. That was an extremely special day this summer, opening for them in Jacksonville. That was definitely a highlight. Every year we've played Jazz Fest. It's been amazing. We're lucky to do that again this year. All the hometown festival, Jazz Fest, Voodoo Fest, are amazing. Lollapalooza this past summer was a highlight. We've done Bonnaroo twice. The first time was in 2013 when we were just, nobody had really heard of us, and that was super special because when nobody hears of you and you really deliver and rock it and then they love you, it was meaningful. Like we did a late night tent set that was super, super special. And then we played it again, on like the main stage, and that was also great. Austin City Limits, also very memorable, and our festival, our sets at Hangout Fest regionally in Gulf Shores, Alabama, were also special, right on the beach. All of our shows like in this like Gulf region have been really good. We've spent a lot of time, like in the years when we were coming up. We would do residencies in a little beach bar in Pensacola, Florida, called Bamboo Willie's, and we've over those years really developed a grassroots kind of fan base. So whenever we go back, like we played Mobile, Alabama last weekend, and it was just amazing. Something about like the mix of like, whatever, it's not a huge city, there's low expectations, combined with these people that we've known for so long, and that just really makes it for a really fun, loose show in those areas. That said, we've had amazing shows in D.C. over the years too, especially last year at the Anthem. It was my first time playing there, and it's an amazing venue, one of my favorite venues in the country or the world. So yeah, we're definitely excited to come back there and rock that again.
Awesome. Before I move on to the Anthem real quick, I just want to double back on your whole opening for the Stones. Any cool insights on what Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, behind the scenes, backstage, or
Yeah,
any?
It's pretty much lockdown, like back there, like really high security. But they do a thing where they'll take a picture right before they go on stage. They'll take a picture with the opening band, and our friend. We're good friends with some of the guys in Trombone Shorty's band, and they had opened for them in Poland, and then they kind of let it, he let us know there's like the initials of like Mick Jagger, MJ, and like Keith Richards, KR, like on the floor, like on like a piece of paper, and that's like where they're gonna stand. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna stand next to Keith Richards and Ron Wood, and the guitar player, and it was just like really cool. Like they walked in, and first Charlie Watts walked in, and he was just super down to earth, like talking about how we're from New Orleans and they just played New Orleans, and that what amazing local drummers he saw in New Orleans, and then like Keith and Ron come in, and we just like joke around real quick about normal things like how fast the camera was taking pictures, and Mick came in like a bundle of energy, like he's about to get on stage in front of 80,000 people, and he's like giving everybody pounds. He's like, "Was it good? Did you have fun?" And he was like, "Yes, yeah, of course, thank you. Thanks for having us, Sir Mick." Whatever. It was amazing. It was just surreal, and yeah, I mean, it was like meeting royalty. Really, like it was incredible. Just to get that little, to get that nod, to get that open for them, and hear our band's name come out of his mouth while he's on stage, thanking us to play. It's just insane.
Yeah, that's about as big, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned that, your drummer, Andrew Campanelli, has some, D.C. area roots. Do you remember, where is he actually from?
He's from Falls Church. Yeah, he grew up in Falls Church, Virginia.
Oh, that's awesome. How did he make his way down to meet you guys in New Orleans?
He went to Loyola University. I went to Tulane, and we actually met at Tipitina's, the Club Tipitina's Sunday morning workshops. They have, when we were students, they had free workshops for students to play with and learn from local musicians. So we met over there in college.
Okay, so it's down through a college connection. I got you. All right, well, you've been more than generous with your time. Just sort of in closing here, you guys, played the anthem and loved it. What was it, last year, or was it 2 years ago,
Yep.
something like that?
Something like that.
If our listeners came out to that show, why should they come check you out this time? What makes it a little bit different? Or heck, maybe some people haven't ever seen.
Well, we have some amazing support acts, of course. Taking the Bangos. We might want to fact check that actually, but I'm pretty sure it's them who are opening. They're an incredible group. They were just nominated for Best New Artist at the Grammys. They're from New Orleans. They're outstanding. We're also, this is the point where I try to sell it, but we put on a good show. Just like honestly, we have a lot of fun up there. We make sure that we change up the set list each time we come into a city. So if you did come last time, had a great time, you'll come again. You'll hear some different songs. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Why do you like the anthem specifically? It's a cool spot, man.
It sounds great in there. It's just this big, cool room. And they treat you really nice backstage, and that whole new area is it's fun to stay in for a night or two. They treat you really well, and it sounds amazing in there, and it looks cool, and it feels cool on stage, and I hope so in the crowd too. Really special place. Multiple people after playing that place have remarked that they're like, wow, it's such a really cool venue.
Well, thanks for your time, Zach. Again, everyone, the Revivalists are coming to the Anthem on February 29th, so get your tickets now. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.
Explain your DNA on 10 cases, man.
You're inside the police interrogation room with the alleged Potomac River rapist.
I'm not guilty on any of this stuff.
So calm, so reasonable. Could this be the man who terrorized women for 9 years before murdering a brilliant scientist 2 decades ago? Experience one of the most fascinating true crime podcasts available. Join crime reporter Paul Wagner for Unknown Subject, Season 3 of WTOP's American Nightmare series. Search American Nightmare Podcast on all podcast platforms.
I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.